So 807 days ago, I discovered this.
Oh my God.
I was wrong. 2 does not equal 2 with an and 1. It equals 3. Parabola 2 or 3 points. 3 refs, 2 announcers, everybody sucks. Phil Jackson did not take the bus. But he wrote it. The 2-3 zone is not a 3-2, but it is 5. I mean, it's just so obvious. Computer blue. God. 2 is now more than 3. And the post? Oh, it's back. You know the story by now. For years, the efficiency of the 3 was hidden in plain sight. Teams tossed up contested 2s at an alarming rate.
Westbrook, shot clock winding down, lines it up.
Then, math started mathing. As teams opted for more 3s, lots of benefits occurred. More points, more offensive rebounds, more space. The percentage of 3s taken rose to levels we had never seen before. With it came a casualty.
Return to perimeter.
Post-ups plummeted, and it's understandable why. With the help of some 4th grade computation and player tracking, the nerds revealed that the traditionalists were traditionally wrong.
The most efficient way to play a sport's not necessarily the most pleasing.
The post-up was not a smart basketball play. In the paraphrased words of Rick Carlisle, it was worse than Rajon Rondo and Dennis Smith having a miscarriage. Okay, maybe not that harsh, but it was an inefficient piece of garbage that needed to be eradicated. If we could go back in time and never put ones back to the basket, we would.
Out of bounds, New York ball.
The nerds had won, and if we look at half-court play types, the post-up is at its lowest point ever. But I noticed something recently. A ray of light. Points per possession has not only been rising for the 2, it's surpassed the apocalyptic 3. Along with it, a partner, a post-up. Looking at just half-court possessions this season, isolation plays are run 18.4% of the time, scoring 99.7 points per 100 possessions. Handoff plays 19.3% of the time, 97.8 points per 100 possessions. Pick and rolls 62.5% of the time, 99.4 points. And post-ups 4%, 105.8 points. If you don't have anything in transition, the post-up is God's gift. It is the most efficient play type. And who is leading this charge?
Show yourself!
Nikola Jokic was averaging an absurd 1.28 points per possession on post-ups before his injury this season. That's a better scoring rate than any team in the history of the NBA.
One of the greatest basketball players of all time.
Traditionalists are loosening their grips every time that sphere graces this Serbian's hands, rope-a-doping his way in for bucket after bucket.
Jokic is effing good. Well, we know that.
But here's the thing. Jokic is not alone. There's Giannis at 1.15 points per possession. Porzingis at 1.23. DeMar DeRozan, surprisingly a great post-up player at 1.19. Even smaller guards like Luka feasting on smaller players at 1.22. Outside of SGA, all these post-up players are well above the top isolation scores and significantly above average half-court offense. If we look over the last 10 years, the post-up has emerged, or rather diverged, from the other 2 primary play types. The efficiency of the post-up has skyrocketed, and this has helped boost the efficiency of 2s to the point we haven't seen in decades, where 2 is now more than 3. And when we add in the benefit of free throws, 2s are crushing 3s. What is causing this? Many players have been redefining their careers, which kindly brings up the sponsor for today's video, Southern New Hampshire University. Many people feel trapped in a career that is unfulfilling, and unfortunately, there are often a few significant barriers to getting into another field, notably time and cost. That's where Southern New Hampshire University can help. SNHU is one of the largest accredited universities in the United States with some of the most affordable online tuition rates in the nation. And their programs are extremely flexible with no set class times, so you can learn when it works for you. I did my first 2 years at a community college, so I know how important transferring credits can be. Thankfully, with SNHU, you can transfer up to 90 academic, experiential, or military credits, helping you finish your degree faster and for less money. Also, I think we all know that experience is very important, but you often need a relevant degree to find work. And a good example of this would be a finance degree from SNHU with a concentration in financial planning. A lot of people ask me how they can get into financial planning. This would be a degree that could help you meet that requirement. If you've been thinking about taking the next step while still working full-time, maybe this is the reminder that you needed to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start investing in your future. Visit snhu.edu/Michael McKelvey to explore more than 200 degree programs and see what path might be right for you. Thanks again to SNHU for sponsoring this video. Watching this play here is actually going to tell us a lot. Here we have Marc Gasol. He is leading the NBA at this point at roughly 7 post-ups a game. He's posting up another 7+ footer in Porzingis. I mean no disrespect to Marc Gasol when I say this, but this was a terrible basketball play.
A year ago, Gasol with a miss.
Marc would score about 0.89 points per possession on a post-up. To compare that to Jokic, that's a 40-point blowout over the course of a game.
You need to make some shots.
Gasol's teammate, Zach Randolph, was another player praised as an elite presence. He was worse, 0.84 points per possession in the post. It's kind of fitting that the end of the post-up era is largely recognized as the Grizzlies' loss to a much smaller, better-shooting Warriors team.
Hasta la vista, Grizzlies.
But was Gasol really that much worse than Jokic in the post? This is where numbers can be misleading. Notice who Gasol is posting up here. Porzingis, another 7+ footer. Porzingis isn't the best defender of all time, but he is still very tall and a center. It's not a full-blown mismatch, like this play later in the game where Gasol takes it at Aaron Aflalo, a far smaller player, and gets fouled.
Gasol draws the foul.
In 2014, we'd see about 8 normal post-ups without a mismatch in a game. Gasol was probably doing this a lot more. Back then, we'd also see about 3 mismatches, that is, about 3 mismatch post-ups a game. As time has gone on, though, there are actually slightly more mismatch post-ups. In other words, teams are a lot smarter now. They've largely eliminated most of the Gasol post-ups, or worse, the Tony Allen versus Aaron Aflalo.
Baseline, TA, no.
Obviously, Jokic is better than Marc Gasol in the post. I don't think anyone's denying that. But is he that much better? I don't think so. And I think the easy assumption here is, well, today's game is much smaller, leaner players, so the Goliaths that remain, such as Jokic, are feasting. That's not entirely the case. And that's where basketball can teach us a lot.
You won't shoot. You won't shoot.
Let's imagine for a moment that you and I are playing one-on-one. We'll use my bitch-ass brother as a proxy.
Shoot that, boy.
I have 2 options on offense. I can drive for a 2 or a 3-pointer. Since my family is poor, my dad can't afford a shooting coach.
Live with that.
And the result of that is my jumper's ass. When Sean plays tight, I only hit about 20% of my threes. That's 0.6 points per possession. The math is pretty straightforward here. If I shoot a 3 at 20%, that's 0.6 points per possession. We'll place that in our upper right square of our matrix here. Again, this is for when the defense plays tight on me. I shoot 3s very poorly because I have less space. However, since he is playing closer, he's more vulnerable to me getting by him and fouling. When Sean plays tight, I score 60% of the time on my 2-point shots. Again, the math is pretty simple here. 60% times 2 points, 1.2 points. Option 2, Sean plays off me. In this scenario, I only hit about 30% of my threes because my father just didn't pull himself up by the bootstraps and pay $7,000 for me to get a shooting coach when I was 9. It's also more difficult for me to score inside because, well, he's playing off me. I only score about 50% there. What play should you call? This is not a trick question. If you're the coach and you have two options for me, shoot or drive, you should tell me to drive every single time. Since I can't shoot, you should call for me to drive every single time. The defense will know this, so they will play off of me every single time. It's easy to see this visually. The red line here is shooting a 2, and the blue line is shooting a 3. Since shooting a 2 is always higher, that is, the red line is always above the blue line, the defense should never play me tight. They should play tight 0% of the time. By doing so, they ensure the least amount of points per possession. 1 point per possession. Now let's say my dad gets a job in big tech. And as those stock options vest, he sends me to the lab to do some heavy light work. A 23-year-old former JUCO sniper is hired.
Here.
Verbal abuse and overspecialization aside, I improve. Now, my brother pays the price.
Look at that. Oh, here we go. He can't shoot.
I shoot 45% from 3 when he plays off. That's 1.35 points per possession. Not that anybody cares, but I still score 50% of the time inside on 2s. That's 1 point per possession. When Sean plays tight, I have improved. I shoot 35% from 3. That's 1.05 points per possession, and still 60% inside on 2s. Now, what play do you call, coach? This is a little more challenging of a problem. My dad's promotion makes things a little less straightforward. But again, we can graph this. Here's what our graph looked like in scenario 1 when I couldn't shoot. Here's what it looks like now that I can shoot. If the defender keeps their same strategy and plays off 100% of the time, it's simple. I will adapt and punish them by shooting a 3 100% of the time. That results in 1.35 points per possession. That is a losing strategy for our defense. After getting torched and accused of laziness, Sean starts chesting me up a little bit more often. Eventually, there is an equilibrium. 70% tight, 30% off. This means if both teams are playing rationally, eventually the defense will play tight 70% of the time and off 30% of the time. At this equilibrium, my points per possession is 1.14. My offense has leapt significantly, which any of us would have guessed. I mean, more versatile you are, the more difficult you are to defend. But notice what happened to the 2. Remember, as I mentioned, we aren't a better 2-point shooter. Yet our 2-point efficiency has jumped from 1 to 1.14. The improvement of the 3 didn't just improve our 3, it massively improved our 2. This is what's happening in basketball right now. For the first time in history, at least since we invented the three-pointer, we are at an equilibrium. Basketball, of course, is more complex than our example that we're using here, but we can swap our defensive decision with shooting a 3 and a post-up. When you're off the ball defensively, the way you can guard a post-up is very much in opposition. You can choose to help down and dig more often and decrease the post-up efficiency, or stay glued to your man and let that boy cook in the post. This time more significantly because the defense is really in a tough spot. This increases the scoring efficiency of our post-ups, and that makes sense. The post-up is more of a one-on-one game today because defenses are more worried about guarding the 3. They don't help as much. Another example would be, who do you play? A quicker, more slender player is better suited to guard the perimeter and thus guard the 3, whereas a larger, stronger player probably better suited to guard the 2, at least talking averages here. Thus, teams have had to play slender, quicker wings and posts in order to match up better with the 3. And that makes it easier for the 2. This is where the 2-point shot improves with help delayed or removed. Suddenly shots at the rim or a post-up, it's less congested, it's less contested, and thus it is more efficient. On the macro level, the best 3-point shooting teams are often very good 2-point shooting teams, and the fallout of this is changing player archetypes. This has happened in a myriad of ways. Slimmer and faster players are more desirable because there is a premium to being able to guard the three. Zach Randolph is too one-dimensional. While he would score more often in today's game, he would not be able to guard the fours that stretch the floor. There would almost certainly be too big of a trade-off. Players like a Jaime Jaquez have replaced him, a shorter but more versatile player who can guard more positions. While offenses may be better than ever, this does not mean that they are playing optimally. As a brief recap, here are the half-court plays ranked. Now, here's the frequency. Could there be more room for post-ups in today's game? We need to consider first, who is posting up? Okay, so the best way to explain this is actually with a different visual. Here's a heat map from about 20 years ago of where players took shots. The more heat, the more shots. This visual is probably ingrained in your memory by now, but let's take it a step further. As we progress through the years, more heat from three, more shots at the rim, and the death
Westbrook has to fire at the buzzer. All there.
of the mid-range.
Paint is closed.
But if we zoom in here to this little dot, Kevin Durant, he still shoots middies. And over here, there's Devin Booker, another mid-range connoisseur. Over here, we see, wow, it's last year's MVP, SGA. All these guys are taking a lot of mid-range shots still. So why are there only stars in this mid-range wasteland? Well, the ones who remain were chosen. As in, the bad mid-range shooters have largely been filtered out. Now, one could look at this sample and say, well, look at how good mid-range jump shooters are. But that would be short-sighted. Why so few post-ups? There is a selection bias. Remember, while the post-up is far more efficient today, it's also far less frequent. And that's because, well, the bad ones have been removed. Sorry, Tony, but we're not seeing as many post-ups like you. Now, this has not happened to the same extent with isolation and pick and rolls. For example, there are 50 players attempting at least 2 isolations a game. There are only 19 for post-ups. Teams are far more selective when it comes to who gets to post up in comparison to who's given the green light to isolate. Also, there are moments where isolation needs to happen. You might only have 7 to 8 seconds left on the shot clock, and you have to...
Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Bang!
So, have we been fooled by randomness here? Is the post-up still very much dead? Not entirely. Let's go back to Triple J here. Jaquez is a unique player who has little to do with the modern game. He's terrible from behind the arc, he's too small to be a true 4, and lacks the handle to be a true wing or guard. Naturally, all that made him a great fit for Eric Spoelstra. However, Jaime has been torching players in one area, the paint. Jaquez is scoring at 69% in the restricted area. That's significantly better than the NBA average. And he's scoring 1.06 points per possession in the post. Miami's offense is playing a little different, but could they consider going through him in the post a little bit more? Another example here might be Franz Wagner. This is another player who appears to be significantly more efficient in the post than as a pick and roll or isolation player. Yet they are going to him far less often in the post than the other 2 play options. They only post him up about 1.5 times a game, whereas they run isolation and pick and roll plays far more frequently. There are several guys that fit this archetype. DeMar DeRozan has proven over multiple years that he is lethal in the post, yet he finds himself running pick and rolls and isolations far more frequently. Again, part of this isolation game you can't avoid, but a player like DeMar has been the primary offensive weapon for years now on his team. Thus, he has volume, and if we look over the last 5 years, he has been significantly better posting up versus isolation. Now, I don't think there's just opportunity for players that have established post games. Think of Khan. This is a guy who hasn't posted up once this year, but he has a great 2-foot game. He has touch, he has size, he's significantly stronger than most guards, but he never does it. Instead, he's running about 4 to 5 ball screens and isolation plays a game where he's not particularly efficient. It might be worth considering building out the post game, which takes us back to our equilibrium and minimax problem. If he built out his post game a little bit more, that would probably force teams to have to play larger players on him, which probably opens up his 3-point shot a little bit more. Yes, this is much easier said than done. I'm assuming that he can build out this post game. But we've seen other players have crazier transformations. And I don't ever see Connor Jaquez becoming elite isolation players. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day. The post-up is isolation. You are giving it to a player in a set space. That player is then supposed to go one-on-one and try to score. Yet the post-up is viewed as this sacred action, while isolation is sacrilegious. I think the two have a lot more similarities than differences. In fact, one thing the player tracking company shared with me, it's difficult for the software to tell when a play is an isolation versus a post-up. This play here with Sengun, for example, it's probably coded as an isolation, but to you and I, it looks more like a post-up. With the way the game has evolved, I don't think it's out of question that we will see more of this in the future. And to be clear, I'm not calling for a full-blown post-up revolution, but 5 years from now, you might see a few more big-bodied playmakers. Guys like Cam Boozer. More 2 than 3. Perhaps the biggest surprise in all of this, how long it took to realize Tony Allen shouldn't be posting up. One of the biggest ironies, I think, that comes with analytics is it continually reminds us that we need to be more aggressive. We need to be going for it more on fourth down. We should be passing the ball more. We should be shooting more threes. But as we step into the efficiency revolution, a new opportunity is presenting itself, and this is not unlike most domains. If you hyperfixate on one solution, one angle, eventually a T800 will come for you. As they say, there's a time to explore and exploit. And well, there might not be a better time to explore than right now. I don't think that basketball has been solved. It's just been standardized, and that could provide an opportunity. Look at Arizona. They shoot less threes than any other high major program in college basketball, and they're one of the best. Now, will there ever be a revolution as significant as the three-point revolution? I don't think so. But that doesn't mean that the edge has disappeared. It's just moved, and it might be moving more inside. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't. And take care.